Well, again, thanks for introducing me. My name is Eric. I work at Unibet. After those two academic presentations, I hope I can still tell you something interesting too. I'm not going to do anything academic. I'm going to talk about sports betting integrity from a more operational point of view, as Unibet is an operator, obviously. Just a few things we're going to touch on today. It looks like a huge list. Don't worry, I'm going to go through it relatively fast. We're going to start about the basics of sports betting, the basics of risk management, and how that relates to safeguarding the integrity in sports and sports betting. I'm going to talk about the ESSA membership we have and what it entails. I was going to talk about education, but after Declan's notes on educational campaigns, I'm reconsidering. And after that, we'll round off with a conclusion. So about Unibet. It was founded in 1997 by a math teacher. He was teaching math, and he got fed up with that. I guess it comes naturally when you're a math teacher that you get fed up with your job. What does not come natural is that you then found Unibet, or online operator. He literally started in the basement, somewhere hidden close to Earl's Court in London. It was a small startup. Nowadays, in 2015, this comes from the annual report, but nowadays, 2015, Unibet offers multi-product online gambling and multi-channel digital entertainment. The industry we're in is relatively new. Within this relatively new industry, Unibet is one of the old men. Hi there. We're doing relatively well, which is good. We did make quite some profit last year. Which is obviously a nice thing to do. We're listed on the Nasdaq OMX in Stockholm, so we're a stock-listed company. We got approximately 650 employees. This was before we actually acquired two other operators, so it might be close to 900 now, of over 30 nationalities. Not only Danish people and Dutch people, but also Belgians, Germans, basically all over the world. All kinds of nationalities are represented within Unibet. Close to 10 million registered users from over 100 countries. We got licenses in 9 EU member states, among which Denmark, with over 20 audits per year. So we're closely audited and monitored by all kinds of institutions, such as regulators, but also the likes of PricewaterhouseCoopers and all stuff like that. Since Unibet was founded, we've been trying to pioneer in digital safety and security. We've invested in it a lot. Why? We want the customer journey at Unibet to be rewarding, to be fun, and part of that is obviously that you're able to offer a safe and secure betting product to your customers. In doing so, we have 24/7 monitoring with full traceability. We're gonna talk about that a little bit more. Just for you to get to know Unibet a little bit better, this is our product portfolio: sportsbook, casino, live casino, games, bingo, and poker. In 2014, we offered almost 90,000 live betting events, so that's an awful lot. We offered 787 casino and games, and close to 400 million game rounds were played in 2014. We're doing quite well. It's not what we say, it's what other people say. We won the International Gaming Award for Best Sportsbook of the Year and Best Live Sportsbook of the Year, and we're very proud of that. Hooray. Two general developments within the online betting industry is I should start with this one. The mobile popularity. Mobile becomes more and more popular, and people using their device, iPhone, iPad, whatever. Also, maybe it's insightful for you. Of our gross win, 43% comes from sports betting. Casino provides 48%. The rest is poker and other stuff. Now, when talking about sports betting, this is basically the basic of the sports betting product. This is what the betting client looks like. I selected a match, Manchester United versus Liverpool. That's going to be played on September 12th. If customers go to our website, log in and check our offering, this is what they see. You see the match, Manchester United, draw Liverpool, a double chance, both teams to score, half time. This is just a very small selection of the wide range of betting types we have on this match. What I'm going to try and to do is make you understand what's behind this. Where does that 195 come from? What does the 420 mean? I'm pretty sure you all understand. If not, imagine you stake 10. Oh, you got crowns here, right? Well, let's just stick to euros. Sorry for that. If you stake 10 euros on Manchester United and Manchester United wins, your payout is 19 euros and 50 cents. You win 9.5 euros. That's basically how it works. These are the odds. But what are the odds? If you want to come up with a definition of odds, they are the decimal reflection of the probability of an undetermined outcome of an event. Now, where's Jesper? No, I'm not going to do it. Sports betting is a game of skill. That's important. Sports betting is a game of skill. It's not a game of luck. It is a game of skill with an element of luck involved. But the odds are based on the probability that we think there is for a certain outcome. If you as a customer think there's a different probability, meaning the odds are wrong, and if you're able to spot those odds and play them in a disciplined way, you can beat us in the long run. And there are customers who do beat us in the long run. It means that we take a risk offering odds on a sporting event. If we offer blackjack, we know that we have an edge of 1.5% approximately. So in the long run, it's very unlikely that a player will beat us on blackjack. In the long run, in sports betting, it is very well possible that a player beats us consistently. So we have to be careful. It's a customer playing against the odds compiler. I don't want to make it overly romantic. I mean, it's not one guy who is determining the odds. It's a market, and in the market, the odds compiler does have some freedom, some liberty to come up with his own prices, and that's where the customer is playing against. So you're not playing against a stock-listed company or a company that's stock-listed in Stockholm with a headquarters in London and Malta. You're playing against the guy who puts the price online, and you basically challenge him. You say, okay, you got 195 on Manchester United. I think you're wrong. I'm going to place a bet on that. I'm going to beat you. There are approximately 120 odds compilers working on our product. Odds compilers are just the guys who put the price online. It's not as easy as for them as just pressing a red button, the correct price comes out and they enter it in the system and they go home, have a beer, go for a run, whatever. It's the odds are the outcome of a lot of processes, a lot of data processing, a lot of risk management, market influences as well. So yeah, there's 120 of them approximately working on our product. This is only the odds compiler, so this does not include the IT guys, the support guys. It's purely the odds compilers. I tend to see them as craftsmen. I already told you they have the access to a lot of data, but the data don't determine the odds. The data determine the odds in up to a certain point. After that, it is the odds compiler who knows the market, who knows the sport, and who gives his personal view. An odds compiler is able to take a position on the market, so to say. If I go back a little bit, but we're going to talk about that more. Our odds compiler decided to price Manchester United at 1.95, whereas someone else might have 2.05, 2.1, 1.9, etc. We're going to talk about that a little bit more later on. What is maybe interesting to say is that the odds compilers it's a relatively young group of highly skilled professionals. It's guys who come from, how did I put it? Top universities, exactly. As a London School of Economics, Stockholm School of Economics, University of Amsterdam, and whatnot. The reason they go for a career in odds compiling is that they got a passion for sport. And with their profile, they could easily go and work for an investment banker or whatever. But they have this passion for sports that makes them work as an odds compiler, basically. Now, as I told you, I was going to go and explain to you how that 195 on Manchester United came up. I'm going to start with a very, very basic example, a coin toss. So maybe you know the situation in which you're not sure whether you want to go to the Chinese restaurant or the Indian restaurant. You said, okay, let's toss a coin. What you basically do is you say we got a 50-50 bet. So me and Jack. Jack says, I want to go to the Italian restaurant. I want to go to the Chinese restaurant. We say, okay, we do a coin toss. What we basically do is creating a bet with 2.0 versus 2.0. How does that work? Well, you got two options, right? Heads or tails. Total probability, obviously, is 100%. I mean, there's no such thing as more than 100%. Yeah, well, theoretically there is, but if you want to calculate odds for heads, what you do is you take the full probability, which is 100%. You divide that by the probability on this outcome, which is 50, resulting in odds of 2.0. So basically, if you ever do a coin toss with a friend or whatever, what you basically do is you accept a bet at odds of 2.0. Now, we are not a charitable organization. We try to make some money. So we apply a margin, 5% in this example. Make the same calculation, but this time we don't use the 100% as a probability, but the 95%. The probability of heads or tails obviously stays the same, no matter the margin we apply. So 95 divided by 50 means if we would offer odds on a coin toss, it would be 1.9 versus 1.9 in this example. Now, if I translate this to a sporting event, if Roger Federer would be playing Novak Djokovic, and they're equal strength, equal form, everything is equal, you will not see us pricing them up 2.0 versus 2.0, but you will see them 1.9 versus 1.9. Now, deciding on the correct percentages is obviously a lot more difficult than in the example of a coin toss. There's a lot of factors that play a role. For the odds compiler, for us, all information is relevant. The more information you have, the better you're able to decide what the correct probability on a certain outcome is. Again, Manchester United versus Liverpool. I listed a few in this table, but yeah, team player strength, home or away advantage, who's a referee, motivation, form, previous meetings, everything is relevant, and it's up to the odds compiler to make sure that he knows everything that's happening. Because if he misses a piece of information, he might price the matchup incorrectly, and our customers can benefit from that. Now, in the example of Manchester United, they have recently seen their star fourth goalie, Andries Lindegaard, leave on the free transfer, which made Louis van Gaal relatively angry. And just when you thought that he couldn't look any more grumpy, they lost against Swansea, resulting in this picture. So you can see that at Manchester United, people are getting a little bit edgy because they've invested a lot of money, they're playing at home against Liverpool, there's a lot at stake, and they're not performing at the best of their ability. So the pressure is on Manchester United, whereas Liverpool, well, the last time they won the league, I think Match of the Day was not broadcasted in color TV yet because it wasn't invented. So clearly the pressure is on Manchester United. That's a factor that our odds compiler takes into account, and that influences the price. What's interesting is that each bookmaker can reflect differently on the information that's available. Again, here's the table. I've listed a few bookmakers: Unibet, Betson, Bet365, and 1xBet. If you look at the home, so the Manchester United win, we're 195, Betson is 195, 365 is 191, 1xBet is 1.99. For a moment, just forget about the payback. I'm going to talk about that later. What you see here is that Unibet and Betson have less trust in a home win than 365. Why? Our odds are higher. Our odds are higher, meaning that we think the probability is lower. 365 has the odds slightly lower, meaning the probability is slightly higher. This is basically the process you see. Now on the away win, we all agree. It's not very likely that Liverpool will win. It's not totally unlikely, but still they're priced 4.2, which is clear, well, which means they're a clear underdog here. Now I'm going to talk about the payback. I gave you the example of the coin toss with the 5% margin. In this example, our margin is 3.5%, meaning that every euro that is staked at Unibet in total, if it would be staked, how do you say it in English? Evenly between the three outcomes, we would pay back 96.5% per staked euro. Betson is slightly lower. Of course, I deliberately selected 2 bookmakers who are lower than Unibet because we have the most competitive offer. What's relevant though in the battle against match fixing is 1xBet. Why is that relevant? Unibet, Betson and 365 are European bookies with a fundamentally different approach to risk management. 1xBet is an Asian bookie. Look at the payback they have, 98.6%. That is huge. We're relatively far ahead of the game because it's only played on the 12th. You will see 1 hour before kickoff that this might have increased to 99.1%, meaning that every euro that's staked, they pay back 99 cents. What they do is try to get as much turnover in as they can, apply a small margin, but apply a small margin over a lot of turnover, and we're talking about a lot of turnover. Whereas what Unibet and other European bookies do, we try to take position on the market more, and this means that at Unibet we could have more risk on, for instance, Manchester United in this case, because we are higher than 365. So it's very likely that we will have more turnover coming in on Manchester United, meaning we have to carry more risk. But then if Manchester United does not deliver, and Liverpool would win or get a draw, we would win. So that's a fundamentally different business model that European bookies have versus the Asian bookies. There's more differences. We're going to talk about that later on. As I already said, the higher the probability, the lower the odds, and vice versa. This is set in stone. If we would not apply a margin to the match of Manchester United versus Liverpool, and if we would be a charitable organization, we would have 2.02 on the home win, corresponding with a probability of 49.5% of Manchester United beating Liverpool. Well, you can see the figures for yourself. Just the idea that the market odds are lower than what they would be when no margin would be applied. What is important to emphasize is that betting patterns can influence the odds. We can say, okay, we got 49.5% probability. That's our estimation of the probability that Manchester United will win. But what if everyone would be backing Manchester United? Everyone. There would be no one betting on Liverpool. Not one person in the whole world. I mean, it's a little bit fiction. It's an example, theoretical example, but it could be that betting patterns are so centered on one match or one outcome that a downward pressure is put on the price. So we're 195 on Manchester United, but if everyone bets on them, we might have to lower the price to 1.8 or 185 or 175. We might still think that 49.5% is the correct probability, but the market pushes the price downwards and we have to follow. Why do we have to follow? If we are the only ones with 195, whereas the market is on 1.8, we outprice ourselves. We get all the risk on Manchester United. We're basically offering too much value for money. And if then the result is unfavorable for us, we get hit hard. Live betting is increasingly popular, but okay. Now, financial risk management is just one slide. I already told you, the more information we have, the more informed our decisions are, the higher the financial exposure we want to take, and the higher the maximum payout. This is reflected in two ways. One, if we have more information available, we have a higher payback percentage. So we have 96.5% now, whereas in maybe second division English football, we might have 94%. Second, as an individual customer, you can stake more money on a Premier League match than on a second division match in Denmark. Why? We're more certain, there's more information available, we're willing to take more risk. The exposure we want to take depends on a lot of things, not only on the sport or on the match, but also on the bet type, on the event, everything. So people sometimes ask us, okay, so how much can I stake on football? That's a question you cannot answer. It depends on what match is it, what tournament is it, what betting type is it. Everything there is relevant, and all those factors determine what your maximum stake is. Jack and Declan already talked about Asia. The liquidity is far lower than in Asia. What does that mean? The amount of turnover we will get on Manchester United versus Liverpool, it might be a figure that you think is high. If you compare it with what's turned over in Asia, it's a fraction. And that is an important factor, at least in our view, in the battle against match fixing. I'm going to go towards the subject of sports betting integrity now. This is what we're all here for, what we're talking about today. Sometimes people think Unibet is part of a problem, or even worse, that online operators have an interest in fixing. Well, the opposite is the truth. We have no interest at all. In fact, if a match is fixed, it damages us as well in the short term, because we have to pay out, because obviously some customers knew about the outcome of an event, whereas we didn't, meaning they beat us, we have to pay out. In the long run, and I think Jack and Declan explained it better than I'm able to, if people lose their interest and lose faith in the honesty of a sporting event, then there will be no interest in sports betting anymore either, meaning that we can close down. Also, we see it as our corporate social responsibility to try and safeguard the integrity of sports, not only doing financial risk management, but to try and go the extra mile, so to say. So we do try and take our responsibility on this matter. As I said, an honest and reliable product is part of the customer journey at Unibet that we want to be rewarding for our customers. Yeah, and it's part of the corporate social responsibility to exchange knowledge and expertise. I'm not going to say we're doing education again, because for obvious reasons that might not be the best thing to do. Jack already touched on the definition of the manipulation of sports competitions used in the Council of Europe Convention. It is right here. You have seen it already. I'm not going to read it out. Jack made a very clever remark about what's missing in this definition. What isn't important, it's an improper alteration. It takes away the unpredictable nature for an undue advantage. Based on the convention, or not based on the convention states that each EU member state should come up with a national platform in which cooperation can take place. Cooperation is seen by the Council of Europe as the key in fighting this problem. We agree with that. We think cooperation is key. In our view, match fixing is a problem that has its roots in the world of sports, but that can only be tackled if we all cooperate. The world of sports cannot tackle this problem alone. A regulator cannot tackle it alone. A sports federation cannot tackle it alone, and we can't tackle it alone. So we need to cooperate in the form of a national platform. This is what the Council of Europe Convention says. I'm going to focus on what the betting industry can do. It's data exchange and education. The main part is the data exchange. This is the way we operate. If we see something that is suspicious, we report, always. There is no situation thinkable in which Unibet has knowledge about a sporting event that might have been fixed, where Unibet does not report this. Well, who do we report to? 3 options that go hand in hand often. First, there's the national government. Depends on the jurisdiction the customer is from. We always report to the relevant regulator. As I said, we operate in 9 different European member states at this point, meaning we report to all those regulators. Second, Unibet has memoranda of understanding with various sports federations, among which the ITF, the International Tennis Federation, who developed the Tennis Integrity Unit. I think Jack touched on it as well. There's other sports federations we have an MOU with as well, but the sports federations are basically the second pillar of our, if we see something, say something approach. The third one is ESSA. The fact that we report something to ESSA does not mean that the other two do not apply anymore. It's not either or, but it's and. I'm going to talk about it in more detail, but what it comes down to is that if we report something to ESSA, we always report it to the regulator. And if possible, if we have an MOU with the relevant sports governing body, we also report it there. I'm going to focus some more on the way ESSA works. I think you're quite, well, you can all understand how reporting to a regulator works. It's just you write a letter, provide them with the information. What's probably interesting for today for you is to see how the regulated online operators work with ESSA when it comes to reporting suspicious betting patterns. Well, Unibet is a founding member of ESSA, the integrity body of the licensed betting operators in Europe. Khalid Ali is here from ESSA. He's going to talk to you after me in some more detail about ESSA. ESSA applies a two-tier mechanism. And what I'm going to try to do is explain how this affects the operations of an ESSA member. So I could say, okay, ESSA got a two-tier mechanism, that's it. But what I'm going to try to do is explain how we operate based on that two-tier mechanism. The first tier is the internal control system. It's required for membership. If you're not able to answer the question who is betting on what, you cannot join ESSA. This is a very simplified way to put it. What it comes down to is that we have transaction records, digital fingerprint, we store all the information of the customers we have. The second tier is the early warning system, consisting of the member alerts. The unique thing about ESSA is that it's based on factual and real-time transactional data. Maybe there's other monitoring tools, there's other warning systems as well. I'm not saying they don't have any role, that they don't serve any function in preventing match fixing from happening. What I do say is that the unique proposition of ESSA and Unibet as a member of ESSA is that we possess the transactional data, so we see who is betting on what. Whereas a company as Sportsradar, who is very good at monitoring the global fluctuations in the odds, does not possess the transactional data because they belong to the operator. A little bit more detail about the first tier, the internal control system. Again, the central question is who's betting on what. Throughout the customer journey, a lot of information is stored about the customers. Customer registers, he says who he is, where he lives. He makes a deposit, payment methods are stored in our back office. He starts playing, we can see every hand of blackjack, every game of roulette, every unique sports bet that's placed. We can see everything and we store it. And then hopefully for the customer, he can take away some funds. And again, this payment, this process is monitored closely as well. Throughout this customer journey, we have 24/7 fraud prevention and anti-money laundering processes in place. This is what it looks like when you're trying to sign up. You have to fill in a form. You obviously have to give your first name, your last name, email address, postal code and city, username, password, some safety questions, currency. So you have to provide us with a lot of information, and we store that information. This is what it looks like front end. So this is what the customer sees. This is what we see. This is just an example of one of our back office systems in which all this information is stored. So basically, what's important to remember is that we know who is betting on what. That's tier 1. If you then talk about tier 2, that's the early warning system. This is where the actual warning, the actual ESSA alerts are located. How does it work? We make a clear distinction at Unibet, and I would recommend every bookmaker to do so, between unusual activity and suspicious activity. Unusual activity does not necessarily need to be suspicious activity, and This is important. You can often hear rumors about match fixing, or you can maybe see the left back of the national team of Denmark make a huge fault leading to a loss, and then people say, "Ha, look, it's fixed." Yeah, really funny, but it doesn't really make any sense. What is unusual for us is when a customer starts taking markedly more than normal. So again, in the example of Manchester United, we see customers backing Manchester United a lot, far more than we expected. So we see a lot of turnover coming in on Manchester United. Obviously, we didn't expect it. We had 195 on Manchester United. We thought customers would go 50-50 as well, but we see 80% of turnover coming in on Manchester United. With bet sizes or volumes that are not typical to this market. I can't tell how much the average bet in our sportsbook is, but it's low. It's probably the price of a beer, or maybe even less, because I found out last night that Copenhagen is relatively expensive. Price changes do not stop the demand as expected. So Man United is 195. We cut them to 1.9, 1.85, but the turnover keeps coming in. That's unusual for us. Now, when something is unusual, we look closer into it. It does not necessarily equal suspicious activity, and it totally does not equal a proven case of match fixing. Now, when does it become suspicious is when all these rules apply, all these things apply, and I'm explaining it to you in a quite theoretical way, but you get an idea of how we approach this. All the unusual factors must play a role, but there's more. There's no logical explanation for the market activity. Now, if everyone would be betting on Manchester United, and we would be surprised by that, but it turns out that we missed that the first team of Liverpool is suffering from food poisoning. Could very well be. Could be a piece of information that we missed, that the market knew about, and that caused the market to stake a lot of money on Manchester United, meaning, we got a lot of turnover on it. When there's no new information in the public domain, it's relatively equal to the latter factor. When there's no new information in the public domain, so we see a lot of turnover coming in on Manchester United, we see that the market pushes the price downwards to, say, 1.75, but we cannot explain it based on the information that is available in the public domain. That's suspicious for us. Also, when activity polarizes around a single outcome. So turnover is huge, bet sizes are larger than normal, but it's not spread out over all the bet types we have, but on a single one. For instance, is Manchester United ahead after 45 minutes, or will Manchester United win the match? This is our main worry, of course combined with this, but if the market price becomes well out of line with our assessment of the probability, that's where we decide to suspend the market. Why? We think we're experts in predicting the probability. The market price becomes out of line with that assessment. There's no logical explanation for it. It means for us that there's something going on that we don't know about. Then we suspend the market and we report to ESSA. Now, that still does not necessarily mean that this match is fixed, but it does look suspicious for us. Again, it could be that we missed something. I just want to emphasize that the moment we see suspicious activity, it does not equal a proven case of match fixing. What we do is we report to ESSA and to the local regulators and sports governing bodies. After that, maybe a process starts. A DA looks into it. It goes to court, and conviction follows. That's where you have a proven case. So Unibet cannot. We can prove a case of match fixing. The only thing we can do is provide suspicious betting patterns to the relevant federations and authorities. Now, how does that work in more concrete scenarios? I've listed 3 of them for you. First scenario, a lot of bets come in on a football team, Manchester United again. We're going to have a look. Who are these customers? Well, we know them. We ask ourselves, are these regular customers? Yeah, some of them. We know all the money goes on one team, in this case Manchester United. We're top price, out of line with the market. What do I mean? We got Manchester United at 1.95, whereas the market average might be 1.85, meaning we're offering very good value for money. There's not a lot of other market activity, safely within the risk profile. So what do? We accept the bets, but we reassess the odds because we might be overpriced on Manchester United, leading to a lot of turnover. Verdict, it's normal. We just had a different view on the market, which caused a lot of turnover on Manchester United. Now in the second scenario, a client comes in requesting a £1,000 bet on Manchester United. Again, we ask ourselves the same questions. Normal stake is €20. We're middle market. There's not a lot of other market activity. It's safely within the risk profile. What do? We accept the bet. Why? It's unusual, but it's not suspicious. Why is it unusual? He's taking a lot more than normal. On the other hand, we're middle market. It's quiet. This might just be a customer who got a bonus at his job, or who wants to play a bigger bet than normal because he's really confident that his selection will win. So it's unusual, but not suspicious. Now in the third scenario, again, a client comes in requesting a £1,000 bet. So this scenario starts the same as the second one. Again, same questions, same way of looking at it. Normally he doesn't bet over 5. But this is important. We're bottom price, and we have shortened the price already twice. So we came from 195 to 185 to 1.7, but still this customer is determined to get as much money on this selection as he can. He's basically taking any price that's offered. Now, if a punter becomes totally price insensible, the opposite of price sensitivity, it's insensitivity? Insensitivity, thank you. See, I'm still learning, you know. If he becomes totally insensitive to the price, but he wants to get his selection, his bet on, no matter what, that is suspicious. So it might be within the risk profile, but still we suspend the market. What do? We report it to ESSA and to regulators. What ESSA then does, Khalid is going to talk about that in more detail. When we report to a regulator, they often come back to us asking for more information, which we then provide as part of an ongoing investigation. If a regulator comes to us and say, okay, we have a feeling that this specific match might be fixed, could you please send us all the data you have? That's not something we would do. Then we would ask, would you specify your request a little bit? Why is there reason for suspicion? Can we help you with a specific data set in order to help in order for you to do your research in a better way? Now we did do an educational campaign. Matchfixing still exists, so we haven't been able to eradicate it completely. What we did is we created an educational campaign for athletes in cooperation with ESSA and EGBA, and it was funded by the European Commission. What it basically entails is a code of conduct for athletes. We don't think that an athlete will not fix because we told him not to, based on a booklet, but we did want to provide athletes with a code of conduct which helps him to deal with the idea of with the topic of sports betting integrity, so to say. So in that way, by going into the locker room, talking with the athletes, warning them for the risks. We've seen the example from that Declan showed. Warning them about the risks, telling them what can they do when they are approached. That way we hope to have contributed to a piece of prevention as well. So, few conclusions. We know who our customers are and we can monitor them perfectly. Again, it's all about that full transparency and traceability that we have due to the know your customer processes. This is unlike Asian operators. I'm not saying an Asian operator doesn't know anything about you, but there is this huge difference between the European and the Asian market. Why? I told you that in Europe, we know who you are, you know what you bet on. In Asia, the system is more based on trust. So it could be that I want to place a bet, and I go to Jack. I say, Jack, I want to place €5,000 on Manchester United. Then Jack says, okay, I can accept that bet, but I will go to Declan for that. And then Jack asks Declan, he says, I got this guy, he wants to stake 5,000, can you handle that risk? Declan will say, I can't, but I know someone. And then Declan goes to Khalid. And Khalid is on top of the umbrella. Khalid can handle the most liquidity, the most risk. And Khalid accepts the bet. Obviously, Jack and Declan take a margin of my potential winnings. But in the end, it's me placing the bet at Khalid, whereas Khalid does not know who I am. So the person accepting the bet does not know who's the person placing the bet, let alone where the money is coming from. So that's a huge difference between Europe and Asia, and a big risk factor in integrity in sports. Again, we will not hesitate to share our findings with ESSA and local regulatory organizations. I'm saying, unlike Asian operators, I might be generalizing a little bit, but we do have those MOUs in place. We do cooperate with regulators. We have the cooperation with ESSA. And we do think that as a European regulated industry, we differ from the Asian industry in that respect. We know that liquidity is an important factor in match fixing, and the liquidity in Europe is far lower than in Asia. Why is that relevant? Sometimes I try to compare it with when you want to steal a car. Has anyone ever stolen a car in this room? No. If you want to steal a car, you don't want to do it on Saturday afternoon at the most busy shopping mall in Copenhagen. You want to do it when no one's watching, when the chance of getting caught is the least. Well, the chance of getting caught on the betting market is the lowest on the markets with a high liquidity. If you want to fix a match, if you want to capitalize on the inside information you have that Manchester United is going to beat Liverpool, you want to capitalize on that as much as you can. You don't fix a match, or you don't have inside information only to place a 25-euro bet, right? The thing is, if you place a large bet at a European bookie such as Unibet, because we accept lower stakes, because the liquidity is lower, we notice it in an earlier stage. Whereas in Asia, you can easily stake a lot of money without being caught or without being monitored, because the liquidity is so high. That is an important difference. Again, the cooperation is, in our view, is key, and we're very keen on cooperating. We're always open to cooperation, to debate, to discussion, whatever. So Declan basically challenged you to challenge us. Feel free to do so. We got nothing to hide. You can ask us anything you want. And number 5, we have almost 2 decades of knowledge and expertise. We're very much willing to share with, and also we're happy to educate regulators and other stakeholders on our experiences in the field of safeguarding the integrity in sports. And that is basically what I wanted to tell you today.